right. Welcome, everybody. Hypnotic Sunday Service. I'm Evan Baumgartner, board certified hypnotist at Elliott Bay Hypnosis here in Seattle, Washington. And how are you all doing today? So, we have a election coming up here in a couple of days. And the thing that gets me the most about it is I can't really believe it's November already. And I know this is going to be a big one. And no matter who you're supporting, everybody is what's wrong? I don't want to say up in arms about it, but I think this is probably the most passionate I've ever seen the country for an election. Um, it's unfortunate that, that passion is split basically 50-50. Um, but, it is what it is. And a lot of people have a lot of election anxiety about this. And this isn't anything new. I mean, this has gone on since 2016, really. I don't think there's been an election in that time that hasn't seen people with like sudden amounts of heightened anxiety surrounding what's going to happen in the election. And I'm part of Generation X, disaffected, and it's just kind of when I look at elections is like, yeah, I hope the thing that I want passes, the person I want wins, all of that, but it's not the end of the world if it does. I'll just have to adjust to that. Clearly, things are a little different nowadays. I mean, back then, and it was definitely a different world. But people are really anxious about the election, and you know, there's a lot of negative self-talk. I think this is something that we always deal with. There's that voice in our head that says, "Oh, I can't." It's a survival mechanism, and this is the thing that comes up, with anxiety a lot, and anxiety in general. I might not know about election anxiety, but I know about anxiety itself, and I know how it works, and I know that all the tricks it likes to play to find a way to express itself, to keep us stuck, to keep us in the same place, to prevent us from not making changes in our lives, from not anxiety prevents us from investing in ourselves, in our lives, and what's going on to reach our dreams. Election anxiety is no different. It wants you distracted. It wants you thinking about this and, oh God, the world's going to end if my candidate doesn't win. It's not. The sun's still going to come up. And, that's the thing. And with anxiety in general, we're projecting off into the future, worrying about a million and one things that honestly aren't going to happen. But we're thinking of these scenarios. We're pulling it all in. It's, oh no, what if? What if? What do I do then? We're placing ourselves out into this future that isn't going to happen. And even if it does, I guarantee you, like, the worst case scenario is something that we're not even imagining in in that situation, in any situation, really. Mm, But the thing is that it's just that, it's our imagination, and we're not being present. We're not doing what we need to do in the here and now to live a good life. We're worried about what comes next instead of what happens now. And to a degree, the it's we're built to do this. So, like, our ability to actually think ahead and kind of game out a scenario, that's a huge evolutionary benefit that we have. It's a good thing. It can create anxiety, though. And anxiety, again, it's not a bad thing. It's a survival mechanism. But when we are feeling it so acutely in situations that don't warrant it, that it becomes a hindrance in our lives, that it prevents us from living the way that we want, from doing the things that we want to do, that's an issue that needs addressed. We need to come back from, stop projecting ourselves out into the future and come back and center ourselves in the here and now and be present. Look at what's in front of us and what's in our immediate locus of control, right? What what do I need to do here instead of worrying about like something way down the road or even in a couple days. But no matter what happens, no matter who you support, in that worst case scenario where the other person wins, the effects aren't going to be felt immediately. It's going to be coming uh years from now. Like, we're still feeling effects from things that happened way before I was born. um we're seeing things come to fruition of stuff that happened in the 80s and 90s, and it's crazy to think about that. But how worried were you about any of those things before? You weren't. An election happened, politicians got elected, politicians did things that affect all of us, we go about our lives, and then, oh, things are this way because of this thing from 20 years ago before I could even vote. Maybe, maybe not. And what led to that circumstance. And I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but this is also why I say, like, the why doesn't matter. And we don't need to do regression to cause in order to nullify the anxiety that we feel. We need to be present, and we work in it in the here and now, and it goes through time. We build resilience. So when we go into the future and we are faced with a scenario that is uncomfortable, that it creates anxiety, we know we can handle it. And we know it's not going to be any of the things that we might have been worried about before, you know? But we have that baseline of courage, of knowing that we can handle it, that we've dealt with it, that we can be present in the now. And when shit hits the fan, we deal with it. And that's something hypnosis helps you do. And whatever it's about, whether it's general anxiety, just about things, whether it's about an election, you know, it's all the same thing. It's all about being centered in the here and now and not projecting out into the future and not going too far into the past either, down nostalgia hole, where we'll get sad about like maybe opportunities that we missed. Because the thing is, if you're watching this, you're here for a reason and you need to hear this. Everything brought you to this point where you clicked on this video, where you've watched it this long to hear me say this. If one thing was different, you wouldn't be here listening to this. But it wasn't. So all of that brings us to a point where it's like, oh, hey, cool. I need to hear this message. I can actually do something. Maybe not about the world around me, but about how I handle myself, how I feel about myself. And doing that is how we make an impact on the world around us. But it all starts in here. It all starts with us. It all starts with getting out of our head, with letting go of worry, of anxiety, and being present and looking at what is around us and feeling gratitude for it. Yeah. And this is true, especially from like an entrepreneurial standpoint too. Like a lot of people have, a lot of doubts when you start a business, when you go out there, and see, not even like, just entrepreneurial, but think about like a creative endeavor, something where you've been passionate about it. You've wanted to do it. And then there's somebody else who's well-meaning that brings up all the reasons why you're going to fail if you continue down that path. Why you can't do this thing. And again, they can be, obviously not always, but I think majority of times there's a good intention behind it of, oh, think about this. Like in a way they want to be helpful. They're just doing it in a really shitty way. And that can start a whole cycle of negative self-talk. And that negative self-talk then builds up, and that leads to anxiety, that leads to worry. And this will start early on in our lives, when we're babies, when we're kids, when we have no idea of how to navigate reality, how to navigate this life. We're looking around, we're taking everything in to try to figure out how to survive and how to thrive in this existence. And a lot of times that negative voice, I'll be a parent, I'll be a loved one, there'll be a friend, somebody saying, well, you can't do this, you're not good at that, you don't do well at this. And then that goes into their head, and that becomes the story that we tell ourselves. And we will repeat that over and over again, especially when we're young, so many times that we lose sight of the fact that that voice, that negative self-talk isn't our voice. It's not coming from inside of us. It's coming from outside. It's somebody else's doubt. It's somebody else's fear that they put into us that we took. And think about if, you're an entrepreneur and you want to build an app, right? And you have experience in this world and you know this would be a good app, but you're definitely not a software engineer. And so you're telling somebody about this idea, and because you're excited about it and we're excited, we like to share things. And we also want feedback on it. And somebody who doesn't have that same level of understanding of what you're trying to accomplish, who their path in life, I mean, everybody's is different. They aren't in your shoes. They can't see through your eyes. And maybe well-meaning that they're hearing this and it's puzzling to them. And I mean, to a lot of people, just going the self-employment route, becoming an entrepreneur, doing something for yourself, and like leaving the office world, get a paycheck and go home and zone out kind of thing is a mind-blowingly foreign concept to a lot of people, probably the majority of people. And so if you're talking about this idea to somebody and their reaction, especially think if it's a family member, if it's somebody that you're close to, and you're telling them about this idea for an app and this business that you're starting, and they go, but you're not an app developer, you're not a software engineer. And that can start this whole cycle of self-doubt, of fear, of questioning yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough to do this. Why should I strike out and build something for myself that I'm passionate about? Maybe I shouldn't invest in myself in that way, with the energy and the time and the emotional investment into creating something that you care about. Maybe it's not going to. What if it does fail? And it starts this whole cycle. And to that sort of thing, well, what I have to say is you don't have to be a software engineer. You're the boss. You make the decisions. That's when you're an entrepreneur, you're the executive and you make the call. So you can take what they say in, okay, I hear your concerns. No, I'm not a software engineer, but I'm not developing it myself. This is a business. I'm hiring somebody to do it. I'm hiring people to do that for me. And so there isn't that. So that's not like a valid concern. At that point, you can just chuck it out, right? When it comes to election anxiety, it functions very much the same way. All the things that you're worried about, again, this goes both ways, no matter who you support. Is that voice actually yours? Where is it coming from? I bet it's the media you consume. I bet it's the posts you read online. And you get bombarded with it. And you feel this fear. And you feel this anxiety. Oh God, what's going to happen? When I think back over the last 2 election cycles, and I see how stressed out everybody's been, and all all of this stuff. It's like, is it are you actually worried about this? Or are you just do you feel like you're supposed to be worried? And I mean, that's not to say that we shouldn't care about these bigger issues, and doesn't mean that it's not important. But I see a lot of people then not focusing on being present, on what to do around them. I see it having a negative impact in many cases on their lives, on their families, on the people around them. And that's not healthy to let it overtake your life that much. And again, this isn't strictly about election anxiety. This is anxiety in general. It's about those voices and the voices that come in and they get into our subconscious, and we replay it over and over again and again. What puts a message into our subconscious? Repetition and emotion. So if there's cause to be alarmed about a big election, if there's something that you are passionate about that means a lot to you that somebody is now like shitting on, those things are going to go deeper into your subconscious. And the more that you play it, it becomes the story that you tell yourself about who you are, about how things are, and then it becomes your reality. And that's when you end up stuck. That's when you end up paralyzed. That's when you end up in a place where you don't believe that you're good enough, where you don't want to, invest in yourself to make any changes, because what's the point? But is that voice yours? Or did it start from outside? I guarantee you it started from outside. So tell it to shut up. And I think hypnosis is great for that. It's Does it stop self-doubt completely? No. It's insane to think that. It curbs it a lot, but questioning things is healthy. Questioning ourselves is healthy as long as it doesn't, get to the point where we become frozen and we don't take an action, or we ruminate on it. That's unhealthy. But I mean, as humans, as we have this wonderful logical problem solving brain, built on top of all the animal instincts that allows us to look at things differently, that allows us to imagine things in different ways. And when, using that, I again, like I talk about the scale of emotions, we have apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride, courage, acceptance, love, and peace. And we're hardwired to feel all of those. Those we don't just shut that off. And anybody that says, "Oh, okay, you just shut that off," they're lying to you or they're completely insane. You don't. It's there. You just learn to accept it, acknowledge it, look at it, and then let it go. And that at its core is what we do with hypnosis. You'll still have doubts. Being confident doesn't mean that you're not without, question. I mean, that, I think if you're just like, oh, no, this is always right. Well, without any sort of like critical assessment of it, that's just arrogance. That's just being wrong in the opposite direction. We're still going to take our time. We'll still look at a situation, evaluate it, assess it, and then make a decision to choose the thing that we think is best at the time with the information that we have available. But if we're being influenced by somebody else's negative self-talk, whether it's a family member saying, "Oh, you can't do this, it's not going to work out," well, you don't know anything about that. And or like, "Oh, well, you want to build an app, but you didn't you didn't study computers in school," or whatever. Yeah, that's not you. That's them. And identifying that voice, letting it come in and go, "Okay, here's this. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to use courage and I'm going to look at this voice of doubt because all of these things, for better or worse, like they're there to protect us." And that's why I say a lot of times, especially if it's a family member that's saying, these things, is putting that doubt, that negative talk in your head, it's usually coming from a place of good intentions. But like the road to hell's paved with good intentions. So what do? You be the boss. You got to look at it, examine it, and then make a decision based on all the information. Maybe they have a point. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have a point, but they said it in a really shitty way. And just because of how they are, is that something that you can let go of and take the benefit from it and still do what you need to do with confidence, with courage, and go in and face that and know, like, no matter what happens, you are prepared to face it. That's what hypnosis helps you do. It helps you recognize that voice. It changes the voice filter, right? It removes that, so it turns it off. So when that voice that says you're not good enough starts going through your head, why are you even bothering with this? You're just going to fail. You could be like, "Oh, all right, the voice modulator is off. That's actually not my voice. It's my mom. It's my stepfather. It's my uncle. It's my cousin. It's my brother. It's my sister. Whoever it is." And then once you recognize that, you have power over it. You've taken back your control. And you can go, "Oh, yep, all right, I see what they're doing here." And then you can assess if they're just being shitty, or if there's like something valid in there that maybe you missed, that maybe, like, because we get blinded by our passions too. Maybe there's something we're overlooking. And at the end of the day, when we're talking to somebody that maybe doesn't get what we're trying to do, like, why? I mean, beyond being passionate about it and wanting to like share it with everybody, but I think there's also that point of like somebody that doesn't have that sort of, you know, tunnel vision on it is going to bring a different perspective and maybe see something that we missed that we're not able to see being in the thick of it. And that's entirely valuable. It's just we don't want to take any unnecessarily or unintentionally hurtful things to heart and keep going with it. And with hypnosis, we can do that. And like I said, the sun's still going to come up. It's just every day's a new day. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to worry, or are you going to find a way to make it the best day you can? Uh, oh, the election's coming. Are you what's going to happen? What's going to happen if your person doesn't win? Yeah. Are you going to get up in the morning? Do you still have to go through your day? Is life still going to go on, or are nuclear bombs going to start flying? Because unless that's happening, like, we all have to do like get on with it. you know? So give me a call. Let me help you make it easier on yourself. Because it sucks to go through life like that. It's a terrible way to live. And you don't have to feel that. You can be prepared. You can learn to handle it, and it doesn't make any bad things any less bad. You know, it's just our ability to face it with strength and come at it from a place of courage and empowerment versus feeling helpful or feeling helpless and being a victim. And that's not a good way to live. So if you're ready to take control of your life, to say, I'm going to quit being worried all the time. I'm going to quit living my life in fear. I'm going to stop, you know, letting whatever other people's messages get into my head and choose how I live my life. I'm going to do it for myself. Go to EBHypno.com, book a call with me. Let's see if I can help. I mean, if you're dealing with anxiety, I definitely can. That's my specialty. Um, but I also help with a lot of other issues too. So go to EBHypno.com, book a call with me, and let's start making some changes now. Because seriously, life is so much better when you're not living in fear. All right. Take care, everybody.